Grief and a sense of loss can strike us really hard. When it happens, we can't really be prepared, no matter how much we try. A gal I know lost her parents this year. They were in their 80s. They'd been married for 40 years. And they died within 10 days of one another. It just shatters things as we know it. I remember when I lost my mom 10 years ago. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't see past the sadness. And I couldn't be in my life like I wanted it to be. It was a lot like these boulders in the picture. The feelings were so big that they blocked the view of the good parts of life. And at the time, it seemed like they were unmovable and they would be there forever. This talk has 3 parts. I'm going to share a couple minutes about how to cope with grief and sadness, then go through 3 simple ways to ease your grief by holding your hands and parts of your body. And then I'll wrap up by sharing a little bit about how I can help people feel better in their lives. For the coping mechanisms, let's start with a quick look at how complex grief really is. I mean, the things that come to mind most quickly are sadness and loss. I've highlighted those here. But as you can see, in this tangled ball of emotions, there are so many more emotions. Now, I know it's hard to read all the different emotions and all that because of the scale, but I'd like you to notice how many emotions are common when we're experiencing grief. Now, if you'd like to see this a little more clearly, I can send you a copy of the slides, and I'll be glad to do that. So, we suffer losses more than just when a loved one dies. I mean, obviously a bereavement is major, but there's so many changes and losses in our lives, whether it's a relationship, a job, a home, or even just as we get that bit older, our opportunities change. There may be some that we no longer have available. And lastly, when someone we love isn't themselves anymore, we suffer a loss. For example, when someone has Alzheimer's, their body is still with you, but the connections that you had once will be lost. So it's not just a simple on-off switch where it's a major life event and it's a watershed before and after. Sometimes it's a gradual decline where we suffer loss bit by bit and have to deal with it. And if we don't mind ourselves, we can suffer much more than we really need to. There are simple things that we can do to feel better. The 4 that I'm highlighting here are from the Irish Hospice Foundation. They recommend that you keep your connections with others, whether it's a text, a short note, or a check-in call on a regular basis. Second, it helps to talk through things with someone, whether it's a friend, family member, and often it's really helpful to talk to a counselor. They can give you some support and insights based on their experience and their objectivity. Third, keeping some routine in your days and weeks can help. Whether it's getting up at the same time of day or doing certain things on certain days of the week, it can help anchor us when we're feeling adrift. I remember how a weekly cup of coffee with my husband, just sitting outside at a local cafe, helped when things were tough. There wasn't any big discussion or heart-to-heart sharing. It was just the structure of going out and doing that. It was a really big support. And fourthly, be mindful of things that you're reading and watching on the telly. I find that if you spend too much time with the latest news, it can be really draining. Overall, these are just common sense things that you likely already do, and maybe you'd like to do a bit more. Now, I hope you find these coping tools helpful. Taking care of ourselves helps to process difficult times and helps us to feel better in general. For the second part of this talk, here's 3 simple ways to ease your grief and sadness by holding your hands and parts of your body. We can also help ourselves to feel better by supporting our physical, emotional, and energetic bodies. I've found it really helpful to do some simple holds. I'll share a few with you in a moment. And then after we make a start, I'll give you a little bit about the stuff behind the holds. But first, let's just simply experience this. The first option, the first of 3, is that you can soothe your heartache by simply resting your hand or hands on your breastbone at the 3rd rib. And you can hold it like this, or crossed, whatever's comfortable. This is a specific place on your body that helps support us in dealing with emotional angst and heartache. People do this just as a matter of natural instinct. So just simply rest your hands gently. Breathe. Drop your shoulders. And let go. If some emotions come up for you, be gentle with yourself and let them flow through you. If this isn't comfortable for you to hold your breastbone and your chest, you can simply just hold your middle finger. There's connections in our hands for all the different functions in our bodies, and the middle finger helps with your emotional angst and processing things. Now, while you're resting your hands on your chest or holding your middle finger, I'd like to share a little bit about the underlying relationships and energies about why these holds can help us feel better. You probably already heard about the energetic meridians in traditional Chinese medicine. They're used for acupuncture and reflexology, and in acupuncture, I don't know if I said acupuncture or acupressure, the joys of life, but they're used for acupuncture, reflexology, and for acupressure. What we're doing now is acupressure, and it has the foreign-sounding name of Jin Shin Jyutsu. So these energetic pathways, there's so many of them in our bodies, and each of them has a specific function to help support you. In addition, in Jin Shin Jyutsu, the acupressure, there are specific places on our bodies that are shown by the 52 safety energy locks diagram. We have 26 on the left and 26 on the right. We use these in acupressure to help harmonize our energies, to release tensions, release stress, and help manage chronic health conditions. It's amazing that simply by holding a finger or the specific places on your body, the ones that are most helpful to your personal needs, your energy can flow more freely, your body can function better, and you can feel better. I invite you to check in with your body and yourself now. Do you feel any different after a few moments of holding your finger or holding your chest? Often, people feel more relaxed with less tension and pain. Sometimes people can sense an energetic pulsation as the energy moves through their body. Sometimes it's less noticeable. Whether or not you can sense that, the energy is still moving through your body and refreshing, renewing, and revitalizing you all the time. It's when we get tense that the energy can kind of bunch up or deviate or get overloaded. And that's when we experience dis-ease in our body. So back to the holds and to help deal with grief. The second option I'm sharing with you today helps us to adapt to changes and new situations in our lives. By holding your collarbones just here, up at the top, you can hold one or both and you can cross like the other one. By holding our collarbones, it helps us to adapt to changes, new situations in our lives. And it helps your body and energies to adapt to things, whether it's emotional angst or changes in temperature. I know that in Ireland right now we're having a bit of a heat wave, so this can help with adapting to this wonderful sunshine and great heat. And the other thing is that most of the energetic pathways in our bodies pass right through this area. And resting our hands here supports the free movement of energies. Again, just rest your hands gently. You don't have to press or massage or manipulate. Just let go. Drop your shoulders. Follow your breath and relax. When you're doing this on your own time, you may find it useful to spend 3 to 5 minutes, or even longer. Sometimes up to 20 minutes can be helpful. I know that sometimes if I'm out of sorts, I'll have a sit and just relax and hold position or do a sequence that I've learned. And I might stay on one position for a very long time. When you're practicing Jin Shin Jyutsu, you're the artist. It connects you with and is guided by your intuition. Now again, if you find that this isn't comfortable for you, maybe your shoulder is sore or your elbow, you always have the options with Jin Shin Jyutsu. And for this particular place, you can hold your index finger instead. It helps to harmonize this area of your body, and it does so many more things. Now, the third and last option that I'm going to share with you today is a little bit different. It's a sequence rather than just one hold. Because grief is so complex and brings in so many different emotions, the founder of this art suggested that we hold all our fingers in turn for this emotion and attitude. We start with our thumb, and as we move through this sequence, I'll share some insights and connections. When we hold our thumb, it helps us to release worry. It helps us to process and digest the things in our lives, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Holding our thumb helps us to move through the difficult emotions into an easier place. Holding our index finger helps us to release fears and have more courage to face the difficult situations. Sometimes it can be really hard to go through these things, and it takes a lot of courage to show up and be present, and even just to get through the day. So holding our index finger helps us to breathe more freely. Often when we're fearful or we're grieving about whatever loss we have in our life, we stop breathing. But breathing freely and gently and easily helps everything work better. After all, if we're not breathing, we're not living. Right. Okay. Moving on. When we hold our middle finger, it helps us to release anger and frustration. It helps us to connect more with the love in our lives when the frustrations are moved away. And love in our lives, it's for others and love for ourselves. For me, facing the loss of my mom brought up lots of frustrations and anger over lost time, lost connections with her, and lost future opportunities. I know that this anger and frustration is a normal part of the grieving process. Holding our middle finger can help to ease this a bit as we work through things. Holding this middle finger can also help us to have a bigger picture, a broader perspective of how things are. As I process things, I started to see ways that I still had that connection. How I can honor her memory and her contribution to the world. For example, she always wanted to share her knowledge and the love of the things in her life. She was a teacher, and she shared her love of swimming and helping people to overcome their fears. And she was great at it. And following in her legacy, I'm sharing my love of Jin Shin Jyutsu and helping people to learn about it. You who are here today on the call, and for those who are watching on the replay. I was inspired by my mom, and hopefully her inspirations will continue to have a positive ripple throughout the world. On to the next finger, our ring finger. Holding our ring finger has the most direct connection with releasing sadness and grief. The energetic pathways that go through our ring finger help with our breathing and accepting that things are transitory and fleeting. Sometimes when we're missing a loved one, it seems like we've lost everything about them. But really, we can take some solace from the fact that we always have our memories, and we can honor our connection with them in special ways. You might have seen the introductory clip for this talk. I visited Greystones Beach. It's here in Ireland on the East Coast. And it was a way to honor my mom's love of the beach and swimming and nature. It wasn't the first time I'd been there. In the early days, it brought tears and sadness to me when I would go there. But now it brings smiles and joy as I remember her and what a special lady she was. What about you? Are there things that you can do to honor your loved ones? Maybe they loved a certain type of music, or going to art galleries. Or, if you have a more adventurous streak in your family, maybe they love skydiving or abseiling. What can you do to honor their memory and find some joy in your life? So here's the last part of the sequence, holding our little finger. This helps us to release the need to have things look a certain way, or to try to have the pretense that everything is okay, when maybe you're really struggling. Keeping everything inside can seem to hold us together, but it often really makes us more fragile and exhausts our energies as we're struggling. As we hold our little finger, we can ease into more acceptance in how things are. We can show up a bit more authentically and let our quirks and cracks show a bit. I've shared in other talks how the cracks in our lives are part of who we are. It's highlighted in the Japanese art of kintsugi. And these cracks in ourselves and in other things, they add to our beauty. And they're part of what makes us special and unique. Actually, the cracks, or our wounds, are where the love and our true selves shine through. Now, while it's not part of this sequence, here's a little bonus. Holding the center of our palms can help us too. When we don't know where to turn, when we've lost our connection with the bigger picture, with the supports from the universe, we can reconnect by holding our center palms. Simply hold our hands together and breathe and relax. Drop the shoulders. Let go of anything that you're hanging on to. And just be present. I hope that the second part of this talk, the 3 simple holds to ease your grief, has given you a break in your day and maybe even ease things a little bit for you. As we ease through things, if you remember those huge boulders on the beach at the beginning of this talk, they can recede a little bit and things can be easier. As we ease through things, those huge boulders on the beach and in our heart can recede a little bit. And they can let us see the view past the immediate challenges. The bits of grief, like those rocks in this second picture, they're still there, but they aren't as all-encompassing. Now, if these practices from Jin Shin Jyutsu are resonating with you, there are ways that you can get more help. As an acupressure therapist, I support women and men as they manage their stress, challenges, and chronic health conditions so they can step back into their lives. You could have a bit more Jin Shin Jyutsu through in-person sessions here in Maynooth in Ireland, and there's online sessions for those who don't live here or circumstances prevent them from coming directly. It's great to have so many options and to offer flexibility depending on your personal circumstances. Now, just before I wrap up today, I want to share a list and links for the useful resources. Now, I've only included a few here. It's not a comprehensive list. And they're entities that are offering information and support rather than specific doctors or healthcare providers. I've touched on bits of information, and there's lots more on these sites. And if you have others that you found really helpful, I'd love to hear about them. If you'd like to get a copy of this, I'll be really happy to share them with you. And then lastly, just the takeaways from today. You can help yourself anytime, anywhere with Jin Shin Jyutsu, simply by holding your fingers and the safety energy locks on your body. Secondly, I'm happy to share a copy of this presentation if you'd like. Just put your contact details in the chat or message me directly. And then lastly, if you'd like to explore this more, you can reach me by phone or message, or you can reach me online through the Energy Flows website and social media pages. If you have any more questions, pop them in the chat and you can stay on. I'll stay on in the Zoom call after the end of the live streaming to Facebook. And if you've gotten what you need from this, I'm so glad. Feel free to head off on your day. Best wishes for a wonderful day. Blessings to you, and be well. And I'm just going to stop the live video now.